Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 49 here on season 1. Woo! I'm like really excited. I don't know why, but today we're talking about the three most in three, not the three most important lessons, but the three lessons that I learned this year from coaching basketball. So this was my first year coaching basketball. However, it was like my sixth or seventh year actually coaching a sport. So I just wanted to kind of talk about the things that I learned from coaching this year, and hopefully, as a young inexperienced coach or even a more experienced coach, you take some of this information and are able to understand it and learn it before you have to learn it through experience. So, anyways, the first one is ideal versus reality. So this is something that I had to learn, is that I was coaching my players with with what I envisioned the team to be, and not what the team was. So I would show up to practice, and because I had a lot of sports experience from playing in college, playing college sports and stuff like that, I had this idea of how a team should be run. And so when I went to coaching high school, I was like, well, we'll just run it like a college team. And so the what I demanded out of them was a lot higher than what they could actually produce. And so I constantly was struggling between this is the team that I want you guys to be, and this is the team that this is my ideal team, but this is the team that I actually have. And so what you have to do is you have to kind of leave that alone and go, you know what, this is where I would like to be, and use that kind of as the vision of where you want to get, but focus on the team that you have and focus on getting those guys better. So that leads me to my second point, which was to have fun but still be productive. So a lot of my kids were first time ballers, first and second year basketball players, and so a lot of them didn't have a whole lot of grasp on the actual game. And so when we would do a scrimmage or even just simple drills, they didn't really understand the defensive footwork. They didn't really understand ball handling, and honestly, they really couldn't shoot all that well. However, we fixed it towards the end of the year. So basically, what I had envisioned was that I would have a team that could handle the ball, that I wouldn't have to teach a whole lot of footwork on defense, that I could really just draw up X's and O's, and that they would kind of get it, and we would just go from there and just drill it a whole lot. Well, that wasn't the case, and so we had to go from a lot of that kind of stuff into more teaching, and teaching can be pretty boring. And so what we did was we started to incorporate a lot of different drills that were fun, and a lot of different mini game competitions within our practices. And then we also incorporated some dodgeball and that kind of stuff to give some of the athletes that are very good at basketball, and some of the athletes that weren't, a level playing field to compete and have some fun that way. Because honestly, one of your jobs as a coach is to help build a team unit, and if you're not doing that, if you're just having your best 5 or best 3 to 4 players doing all the work, then you're going to have about 6 to 7, 8 players that really have no rhyme or reason to be there. And so you need to make them feel, you need to make them, you need to appreciate the fact that they show up to practice and work hard, because honestly, those 6 people are what is making your 4 other people a lot better. So yes, you can still have fun and be productive. It's just one of those more puzzling and hard things to do and to draw up, but it is possible. And I think that it's very important for coaches, especially coaches that are coaching freshmen and sophomores and junior hires and lower. It's more important to try to make the sport fun and not as competitive, because when they go into higher level high school and into college, and if they decide to go further, they're definitely going to have that competition and lose a lot of that fun. And the last thing that I learned from coaching is that the systems that you put in are important. So it's not so much about you need to put in good systems, not so much just systems in general. So I think that first of all, having systems is important, but you need to make sure that you're creating what you believe are the best systems for the team. So when I took over the program, there was a lot of kind of like dysfunctional systems that we had, which is not really like the worst thing. That's how most teams are. They just kind of function just to play the games. But in order to have a higher level team, you got to have the way that practices are run every single day, the way that your offense is run every single time, the way that your defense works every single time. What happens when a player's not talking on offense or defense? What happens when we're missing rebounds? What happens when we're not getting defensive rebounds? What happens when we're missing our steals? All this kind of stuff. You need to have that all lined up so that when the players show up to practice, they know what's going to happen if a certain thing happens. It's not like, oh, you know what, you missed, or even, a system on what happens when you're late for practice, what happens when you miss practice. So it's not like, oh, you know what, Johnny missed practice today, but you know what, he's like our third best player. It's okay, you can play in the game. But, oh, you know what, our 10th string bench warmer missed practice. Like, heaven forbid, you're going to be running sprints all day long, and then you're going to sit the entire game. Like, you can't have two different standards, because that's not going to build sportsmanship, and that's not going to build team camaraderie. That's going to build individualistic, and it's going to show favoritism for different people. So having those systems in place is very important. And in another episode, I'll definitely dive into like our offensive systems and our defensive systems and how we ran those two kind of systems and how I drew those up for our team that best fit our team. But anyways, let me go ahead and just run through that real quick one more time. So you got to make sure that you're not coaching your ideal team and coaching the actual team that you have, because if you continue to coach the team that you wish you had, the team that you actually have is just going to disappear. You need to still have, with younger, especially sophomores and lower, you need to still have fun. Having fun is probably the most important thing that sports brings to the table. Besides being competitive and learning how to work together, but you still have to be productive. And so finding that balance of having a lot of fun and still being productive is one thing that as a coach you have to learn to balance. And lastly, you need to set up systems. You need to make sure that these are the best systems that you can create. And systems are those things that are going to help generate successful programs. These systems are very, very, very and very important. And if your team doesn't have them, this coming up season, I would recommend starting to put in those systems and starting to change the culture of your team, which will help propel you into the more competitive realm. Anyways, that wraps it up. Let's go ahead and dive into the question of the day. Question of the day is, if you made a Skittle pizza, would the Skittles melt? A Skittle pizza. I think maybe like Skittles on the top of the pizza probably is what they're talking about. Yeah, I think that the Skittles would melt, because I know that when you sit them out in the sun, they start to the colors start to run off, and then they kind of get to squish together. So I do believe that they would melt. I don't specifically know why that's the case, besides the fact that heat kind of just melts things. So yeah, I think that if you were to put Skittles on a pizza, or make a Skittle pizza, you would have melted Skittles. I feel like that question was way too dumb. Anyways, I guess that finishes the question of the day. If you guys have an answer to the question, go ahead and post it down below. I'd love to see them down there. If you guys have any questions for future episodes, like I always say, post them, and I will get them on the next episode. And don't forget to smash that like button. Go ahead and subscribe up there. Check out my other video on coaching, and check out this cool video right here. And until next time, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it.